Hello, welcome back to Learn Economia. In this video, we are all going to look into what is known as carbon trade. So, what is a carbon trade and why is this concept considered to be important in this present scenario? We can see that before going to what is into carbon trade or what is mean by carbon trade, let me give you a present day scenario of what our environment is and how our environment is actually giving us problems or problematic situations. We know that our environment compared to what we had in the past is something which is unpredictable. We cannot predict the time of rain, we cannot predict the time of sunlight, or in this scenario we have to be very cautious. We can we can have flood, we can have droughts, we can have some other kinds of environmental hazards like landslides or cloud bursting. It can be of different forms. So why all these things are happening, why there is no timetable to our environment, why there are seasonal fluctuations, why there are climatic problems? All these are because of human created actions. We are deforesting lands, we are deforesting forests, we are filling up our rivers, we are polluting the environment altogether. All these are creating problems. As a result, now we are at the brim. We should now, at least by now, we should do something to reduce our emissions, to reduce our pollution levels, to reduce our bad habits of damaging and destructing environment. Otherwise we have to pay a lot. As a result of this, the world, by grouping all the countries together, has decided to implement a new instrument by the name carbon trade instrument. And why is it for? We'll be looking into all these things in details through this video. Coming to what is carbon trade. As we trade different commodities in the market, as we trade money and different financial instruments in the financial market, what we do in the carbon market is carbon trading, or we trade carbon trade instrument. Carbon trade involves buying and selling of credits which would be permitting a company or the parties which would involve in this kinds of transaction to emit a certain amount of carbon dioxide or some other form of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Carbon credits as well as a carbon trade, these are some things which are authorized by governments with goal of gradually reducing overall carbon emissions into the environment. As a result, we will be able to deal with the problem of climate change. Carbon trading is also known as carbon emissions trading because carbon involves different forms of carbon: carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, methane, ethane, and other forms of greenhouse gases as well. All these gas forms are considered to be polluting to the environment. All these are damaging the environment. As a result, we need to curtail the emission of these gas forms. So carbon trading is actually based on cap and trade regulations. And what is this cap and trade regulation? We are putting a barrier upon or a limit upon a particular level of trading, and beyond that level you are not supposed to trade. We know that we have two forms of or two different types of countries in this world. We have developing economies and developed economies. Developed economies, they use sophisticated means of production, sophisticated technologies of production. As a result, their emission level would be lesser. And also we know that these countries, the developed economies, they have reached a particular level of development, and beyond that level of development it is difficult to go. I mean, they have already reached a higher level of development. But developing economies, they are in the process of developing. As a result, they are using, and they have less income with their hand, and they are using primitive kind of technologies or uh, developing kind of technologies. As a result, their emission level would be higher. Developed economies have lesser emissions and developing economies have more emissions. But we are dealing with environment which is common to all the economies. the emission level created by one country, the higher emission level created by one country would be having its repercussions on some other countries, and the countries which would be suffering as a result of higher emissions by one country would be a developed economy. The sufferer would be a developed economy, and the problem creator would be a developing economy. So here we cannot do anything because environmental hazards will not respect national boundaries. Like corona, which has emerged in one country and has spread to all the countries, we can see that all these kinds of natural hazards, all these kinds of environmental hazards, all these kinds of environmental distractions will not respect national boundaries. As a result, there is a need to prevent and there is a need to reduce global emission levels in order to rescue all the countries from problems. Right. So carbon trading is actually a tool to do that. Carbon trading is based on cap and trade regulation, which has successfully reduced sulfur pollution during the 1990s. And why is sulfur pollution creating problems, and how this sulfur pollution is creating problems? Sulfur dioxide, sulfur monoxide, and different forms of sulfur is actually considered to be something which would be creating acid rains in the economy. So in the economy, I'm in the economy in the sense that in the environment, when it creates acid rains in the environment, it is damaging not only to human beings, not only to plants, not only to buildings, but also to the entire system of environment too. Because, for example, we know that a part of our Taj Mahal has been destroyed, or the beauty has been hampered as a result of acid rain. This is not only with respect to Taj Mahal. The impact of acid rain is felt in almost many parts of the world. We can see that it is something which would create diseases to human beings, diseases to animals, and these involves cancers, various forms of cancers, and it would be distracting to plant species, different endemic plant species. Then it would be hampering different buildings, and it will definitely destroy the scenic beauty of a particular region. So we need to definitely reduce the impact of these kinds of sulfur dioxide, sulfur oxides in the environment. The regulation which was introduced is that market-based incentives to reduce pollution. Rather than going for mandating specific measures, the policy rewarded companies that curtail the emission levels. The idea here is that applying a cap and trade solution. Cap and trade means that we are imposing a particular limit upon a particular country, not a particular country, we are imposing limit upon all the countries in producing emissions or in emitting levels. And once a country has crossed this emission levels, what we do is that it can purchase agreement or it can purchase carbon trading agreement from those countries which is at a lesser level with respect to emission levels. So the idea of cap and trade solution to carbon emission, we can see that this is something which is originated as a result of Kyoto Protocol. As we know that this Kyoto Protocol is a very famous United Nations treaty to mitigate the climatic change, which had took into effect in 2005. So at the time, the measure has devised to reduce. It was intended to reduce the overall carbon dioxide emission to a level of 5% below 1990 levels, and they decided or they planned to attain this by 2012. The Kyoto Protocol has achieved mixed results, and this is considered to be an extension to its terms, and we could see that there has been many terms which has not been ratified. As we have already told, there have been two sets of nations. One is developed economies, and these are wealthier economy, richer economy, and then we have developing economies, poor economies. The notion here is to incentivize each nation to cut back on its carbon emissions in order to sell and buy the leftover permits. Okay, that is the main notion with respect to carbon trading. The wealthier nation would be subsidizing the effort of poorer polluting nations. The poorer nation would be polluting more and richer nation would be polluting less. So the richer nation can sell its remaining carbon trade agreements to the poorer nation so that the poorer nations can use these agreements by purchasing these from the richer nations, and they can emit. At the same time, they have to make it sure that the global emission levels has come down. Okay, that is the main idea here. But over time, those wealthy nations are incentivized to reduce their emissions so that they don't need to buy as many credits on the market. Here, uh, whether the pollution is created by a poorer nation or a richer nation, whatever it may be, we know that anyway it would be created more by the poorer nations. It would be creating some externalities, negative externalities. How? Because we know that if one country which is a developing economy is polluting more, it would be having its repercussions on some other economy, and it could be a developed economy. So when these things, when these what to say, when these pollution levels, when these emission levels, all these things are something which passes from boundary to boundary, boundary of a country from one country's boundary to another country's boundary, we can see that it is something which cannot be obstructed, but it can be reduced. Okay, so what are the advantages and disadvantages carbon trading? When this particular agreement was introduced, there have been criticisms from various sides. There have been supporters from various sides. People say that this would be helping to deal with the problems related to climate change, and this is a cost-effective method. But the people who were against this agreement, they told that it is something which is considered to be a distraction to the production levels, because if you are going for higher levels of production, that will lead to higher levels of development. But this is considered to be an obstruction and distraction for the production levels, and this is a halfway measure to solve the problem. Anyway, we cannot tackle the problem fully, so this is just a halfway to solve the problem. So why we should go for what is known as carbon trading? So as I said, we can see that there were many opponents to carbon trading as well, but that doesn't mean that this agreement has not been supported by others. Many others were supporting this agreement. Coming to the regional trading markets, do we have a regional trading market to go for carbon trading? So this is still this is a question which we need to understand, or especially in a scenario when we are going for sustainable development kinds of things, and we are giving equal importance of our development as well as the future development, future generations development. We need to answer this question: do we have a regional carbon trading market? While there is no carbon trading market with respect to a global carbon marketplace for trading carbon, several regional restrictions, jurisdictions were there, especially when California as well as the Canadian provinces, when these decided to go for some kind of Western climatic initiative to deal with carbon trading. In July 2021, we can say that China has started a long-awaited national emission trading platform, and also the European Union emission trading system, which is considered to be the world's largest carbon trade market, came to be. And coming to the important agreement, this is considered to be an important agreement with respect to carbon trading, which happened as a result of Glasgow COP to 26. This framework is known as Article 6, which would comprise a lot of centralized system and a bilateral system. A centralized system is actually for trading of carbon within the nation. A particular nation would be having several provinces or several states, and this is done within the nation, and then you have a this is done within the nation would in the sense that public and private parties would be dealing with this kinds of carbon trading, whereas you will be having a bilateral system. In the bilateral system, different countries would be trading with one another as a result of emission. Under the new agreement, those who created carbon credit will deposit 5% of the proceeds generated into a fund to develop developing economies, to help these developing economies to tackle the climatic change problems. Also, 2% of credit would be cancelled. It could be concealed to ensure an overall reduction in the emission levels. There have been many proponents to this particular framework, and they say that it would be creating some kind of financial incentives for those countries as well as companies in order to create carbon reducing technology, and this would help us to deal with climate change problems. So from here onwards, we are going to answer certain questions. What do you mean? What do you mean by carbon trading? So, as we have already discussed, it is also known as carbon emissions trading. It involves an arrangement to buy and sell carbon credits, which would be allowing companies or other entities to emit a certain amount of carbon dioxide and other forms of greenhouse gases. Then, can we can we sell or buy carbon credits? Carbon emissions, actually, these are rights which could be sold on various marketplaces. It can be international, it can be national. International level, there would be a dealing with the private public parties. In the international level, different countries would be trading this particular instrument. Then, where can you trade carbon emissions? That is important. There would be the many regional exchanges. One in China, one in Singapore, one in Canada, one in UK. So different regional marketplaces are there. Then, what is the current price of carbon? So that is very important. Actually, there is no fixed price for carbon worldwide, because this is fluctuating. This is based on demand and supply. But the benchmark EUF futures, the price here ranges between 80 euro to 100 euro. This is for the first 4 months of 2022. We need to see what is going to happen uh, in the coming days. And that's all for today. I hope you got some idea with respect to carbon trading. I request you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more videos. And you can be a part of my Telegram channel and Telegram group to discuss your doubts. I'll be providing the links of these in the description box. That's all for today. Thank you.